Hi, welcome back to the shop. Well, I had this minor dilemma trying to make a decision. The decision was whether to clean up my mess on my workbench that has become a total disaster since I started this Moxon Vise project that I finished yesterday. And so I decided, should I clean up my mess or should I do another video? Well, I guess now you know which way won. Anyway, I just wanted to go over real quick what I had done before I ended up with that Moxon Vise. Just to kind of show you how I got up to there. I went the long way around the block, basically. If you remember last year, I had a Moxon Vise, and I used these handles to make it. These are the hand cranks that were on my Legacy ornamental mill, and I took them off. And haven't really found a good use for them, but I think I have an idea. Another video. Anyway, but I didn't really like using them as my Moxon Vise. It just didn't work right. So that's why I started making another one. Well, I decided that I didn't want that vise. Since I wasn't using them, I thought this would be a good time to do wood. So I started off on this. This right here. And this is the casualty of trying to make a Moxon Vise. This was a piece of mahogany that I milled it down on the Legacy down to a 1.5 inches in diameter. And it came out pretty good. I really was actually quite happy. And then I cut it into pieces. And no. This isn't one of those fancy Japanese swords or anything. It is really 3 different pieces. Here, let me show you. So, there's one. And there's 2. And 3. And 2 extra nuts. These were the first 2 nuts I made. So I started off by making these. And to make these, just so you know real quick, because we're really going to talk about wood threads here. I made these using just an inexpensive kit that you can buy. I think they're like $50 or whatever. This is the 1.5-inch version. Came with 2 taps. So you can make both the threaded rod and the nut. And I just, what I did was, in order to make this work, I went into the kitchen. Shh, don't tell. And I borrowed this from you-know-who. I haven't put it back yet, so don't say anything. I'm going to try to sneak it back in. So anyway, what I did was I poured some of this is just canola oil. Any kind of oil would work. And I took and I just put it in a tall, slender container like this. And then I took my rod, my dowel rod, and I just set it down in there for a couple hours. Let it soak. After a couple hours, I took it out, wiped it off with a rag, put it in my vise, and I cranked out the threads. And that actually worked pretty well. Then when I did the nuts themselves, obviously I drilled the hole, then I took the finger and I wiped the oil on the inside, but I also took this then, after I take it off the nut, and I took this piece, and I just dunked it in the oil. Then I set it down in the hole, and then I started cranking it down, making the threads. I had a toothbrush handy because it makes a lot of crumbs, and with the oil, it really sticks. So you take it out and you clean it off and run it through until you get all the way through your whatever width your piece is going to be for putting your threads in. And so I made these 2 thin nuts that worked real well, and this whole thing actually looked like it was working real well and would make a great wood threaded vise. And I thought, yeah, we're off and running. Then I ran across the problem because obviously these aren't going to be strong enough on their own trying to tighten them down. So I made up what I would consider a little better unit, a wing nut design, and I had the arms just 1/4 inch dowel, and it's removable so that if I can stick these in there to really get some leverage, but yet if I need clearance like above my bench top surface, and this is sticking straight up, I can pull that off, and then I still got clearance on the top if I need it. So I thought a removable peg would work okay. So I was on, this is just a prototype, rough version of what I was going to make for the wood nuts to spin down on these. And then this was the bench I was making for it. Row of bench dog holes in alignment on 2 planes, both horizontally and vertically, spaced evenly apart this way. Up here I put a lot more holes to give me more versatile, but I also put a couple down here. And I was going to take this and drill the holes and mount these into here so that just the thread stuck out, and then my Moxon jaw was going to sit on there. And this was going to be my Moxon Vise originally. And I finally came to the revelation, the final product on the other, and I thought, let's get that out of the way. But I didn't want to give up on this. The biggest problem I had with trying to do it with wood dowels is really the big problem. Because what I found that even though the wood dowel works real well on here, if you put any torque on this and try to crank this down, I don't think the threads are strong enough to do the job. Now, I don't know if that's because I didn't do this right. And I've worked on the depth of cut, and I made it more shallow and more shallow on the die for making the threads. I just kept pushing that further back, so the threads weren't as deep. And it didn't seem to, after a certain point, it didn't seem to really help anymore. So I don't know that you really get the strongest thread in the world for this type of setup, it looked like. But I haven't given up on it. I just decided this would not work for the Moxon Vise. I was afraid these threads would give out in a very short time. And I'd have so much invested in here that would really been a bummer. That's why I moved on to using that 5/8 rod. The anchor bench dog anchors. I started using those for that reason, and those I think is actually turned out to be the best solution. But I still want to do something with these. I have these so I can use them. My problem is I just don't think I have the faith in the threads for any high torque. But what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to put a couple of coats of full strength polyurethane on this, on the threaded area, and inside the threaded area there, and let it dry over 48, 36 hours, maybe even a little longer. Make sure it cures. Then I'm going to retap it, and then let's see how strong those threads are. I'd be interested to know that. So we're going to work on this because I really like to incorporate into my shop things that use wood threads. I think that would be cool, and it would be a lot of fun. As you know, I already do wood hinges. I've all but given up on using regular hinges anymore, and I'm determined to always make everything using my own shop-made hinges. I'd like to do that with this sort of thing too, with the exception of something really small like 1/4-inch bolts. No way I'm going to make those out of wood. But for especially the larger stuff, I think this would be very cool to use if I can get it to work. So we're going to try reinforcing the threads with polyurethane, several coats of polyurethane, and let's see how much strength that adds to the threads. And when we get done, and I know they talk about using crazy glue and all this other stuff. The problem with the crazy glue is it takes so much volume to do threads 6 inches long on an 1.5 inch diameter rod. That would take a huge amount, and trying to keep that smooth and get it on there correct. I think the polyurethane is really the same thing. You just put it on one layer after the other and keep applying it. And I'm going to try to see what happens by doing it that way. With the start. If it doesn't work, no big deal. I'll just make some more 1.5 inch dowels out of something, and we'll try it again. I probably would be best if you did this using maple. I used the mahogany because I kind of wanted to make something with some really look nice with mahogany. Doing it out of oak, and the grain is so open grain that it just did not do well for making the actual threads. It would chip out like crazy. This does a much better job of giving you a smooth thread, but they're not strong enough. So I'm probably going to make up a short dowel in hard maple, and then that way I can make some thread like this in a maple also, so I can kind of compare this to the maple, and we'll see how they compare. If you know why this thing doesn't really have the strength on the threads, let me know, because this thing would actually skip the thread and jump back over the thread on any of these rods. And like I said, I changed the depth of cut as I did from one to the next, And the one with the most shallow thread did not have the strength that I would have expected from a 1.5-inch threaded item. So maybe wood threads aren't practical, but I'm not giving up. So anyway, that's my plan on this. I wanted to show you this ugly thing I was making. Like I said, I had this big piece of mahogany, so I made this bracket here to put on there with the dog holes, which I was going to incorporate into making my Moxon Vise. So I still have this. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. Got all those holes in it now, so there's not much else I can do with it. So I may make some kind of bench out of it before I'm done, because I still have some ideas of things I want to do on my T-bar setup. Anyway, but so much about that. It's really, I just wanted to show you where I was at with threads and where I was going to go, and I'll keep you informed. If you have any experience in working with this stuff, with threads and the things that you want to watch out for when you do it, let me know. Because like I said, it seems to work pretty well. You just can't do any high torque down to really clamp something down like on a Moxon Vise with these. These are just too fine a thread. And like I said, this is a standard kit. So I don't know if they make different kits with different TPIs for 1.5 inches or not. And maybe that's my problem, is what I'm actually using for a threaded unit. So anyway, any input would be appreciated. I've done some research. There isn't a huge amount out there about the traps and the tips of doing it. You've seen guys that have taken and done videos on it to show you how they did it, but I don't think there's any real depth look at what to watch out for and what's the best way of doing it. I really haven't quite figured that out 100% myself. So hopefully I'll add to that arena out there in YouTube of the traps and the tips for wood threads. We'll find out. We're going to try to take it to the next level. So anyway, this is a Rambling Russ. I just wanted to show you what almost made it to a Moxon Vise. I thought I'd share that with you since you saw the finished product. Show you that it didn't just come to me all of a sudden. I did go around the block a couple times before I finally ended up doing it that way. So sometimes the long way around the block is what happens. Anyway, I do want to thank you for stopping by. If you have any comments about any of this, please leave them below. If you like this video, say so. Most importantly, though, come back again, because we're nowhere near done. And quite honestly, now I not only have to clean up, I still got to do my downdraft table. I'll get to that. I know I will. Anyway, thanks, and we'll see you again very soon. Bye.